What up, what up, what up? This is your boy Agree to Disagree. I got some good content coming your way, so let's get right into it.
Okay, well, on a more positive note, what make you feel powerful, like when dating?
Not compromising my values and like my standards and my requirements.
Yeah.
I think it just also depends to like where you guys are at in that stage of the relationship because sometimes like you got to just make sure you're giving it to the right person, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I find it very interesting that she says what makes her powerful when dating is not compromising. Because to me, relationships is all about compromise. You know, once you find that person who you want to be with and who you care deeply about, you have to make certain type of compromises to make sure that the relationship keeps running as well as it needs to run. Your partner's going to like certain things. He's going to expect certain things from you. So in order to make that work, you have to compromise by doing the things that he likes to do, and vice versa. He should also be doing those same things for you. So I find it really interesting that she says what makes her feel powerful is by not compromising. It almost sounds like her power is in not submitting or not being agreeable.
That's important because it's like when you start getting it to the wrong person, it's gonna like drain you.
But then
more
when you
than
know it's the right
anything.
person, because everybody have on a mask in the
Okay.
beginning. Oh,
Okay.
exactly. So like overall, like what stage of dating do you feel like you start seeing people's true colors? That's the even better question. Because what if you blocking your blessings? What if you, see, that's the thing. We talk about like following us, following our heart, following that feeling, but at the same time, have a whole bunch of requirements on what a person should be. So how do we know like which ones are like, am I being too harsh or am I being?
Well, I think like there's some superficial requirements that like okay we can kind of you can cut down on those. You can compromise on some of those because it's like okay that's not really important if it's somebody who's genuinely like a really good person. They care about you. They have your best interests at heart. Then I feel like okay we can compromise on some of those things. But I think like as long as you're not compromising on like your core values and beliefs and like
that's it. That's it.
I can respect that.
Describe how taking control improves the overall dating experience.
I think you'll just be happier at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I'm very much in a space right now where I'm not doing anything that's going to compromise my peace and happiness.
Period.
So I think just taking control, making sure you like maintain your power, don't give your power away to anybody. That I feel like is the key to like truly being happy in or out of a relationship.
Whew. Oh man. You know, I feel like that's an interesting dynamic too. Was not giving up your power. And I feel like a lot of these dating platforms kind of do this where it's all about having leverage in relationships now. It's not about meeting each other in the middle. It's all about having leverage over someone so they can bend to your will and not the other way around. And that's what I really think is a big problem in today's relationships, where it's like you're not compromising on anything. You're not trying to meet anyone in the middle. It's all about how can I be put in a position of power to where this person has to do what I want them to do. And it's relationships is not like that. That person that you're with is not always going to have to bend to your demand or they have to do what you tell them to do, or they're not always going to do that. They're not always going to be right in line with what you have going on. And so that's why I go back to relationships is all about compromise, is because, you know, sometimes they're going to do what they want, and sometimes, you know, we get to do what you want. So it's a back and forth there, and you have to find that middle ground where y'all both kind of get what you want out of the situation.
Let's pull over, you know, but out here it's like you're in the car by yourself for hours. It's like you feel very isolated. So that was a way to make the world feel smaller and closer to me. With that being said, when it comes to dating on an app like Bumble, it kind of like helps to fulfill that need in an easier way. I like Bumble because I make the decision. versus feeling like somebody's like swiping through my pictures like, I don't like her. Right. I don't like her bikini. The boob's not big enough. You know what I'm saying? Like something like that. And I'm just, with me, I'm like, okay, I get to choose.
It's on your terms.
I like that. Yeah.
On your terms. Yeah. We just spoke about that earlier.
Dating on your terms.
On your terms.
Always on my terms. Okay. Even when they think it's on theirs, it's always on my terms.
Period.
You know, they keep saying that phrase, dating on my terms, dating on my terms. And it sounds great and all. But what does that really mean? Like, let's break that down. Like, I'm dating on my terms, right? In order to have things on your terms, you have to be in a position of power, something I talked about earlier. And it's funny that she said, even when you think it's on your terms, it's really on my terms. Truth of the matter is, the same can be said back to hers. Even when she thinks it's on her terms, it's really not on her terms, right? Because she talks about, you know, getting guys and dating them, right? It's the guy who has to plan the date. It's the guy who, you know, controls whether he's going to propose to you or not. It's the guy who makes that initial move. So not all of it is in your control. And for things to be truly on your terms, you have to be in control. You have to be in a position of power to make things happen just the way you want it. And that's this thing that I feel like everyone keeps getting mixed up, is like they think they can be in a situation where they can control all the variables. You can't control all the variables. It's simply not possible unless, again, you're in a dictator role where you have leverage over that person. And if you are in a position where you have such high leverage over a person where they do whatever you want them to do, then that person is not your equal. That means that you have vastly settled to be in control over the situation. So this whole dating on your terms, it sounds great, it sounds nice, but it's a bunch of bullshit, right? You can control what you can control, all right? So this whole thing, I'm dating on my terms, and is just a fancy way of like, I'm gonna be selfish. Like that's all I hear is like, I'm gonna be selfish in this dating game. I'm gonna look after me first and bump what this dude or what anyone else has to say. I'm just gonna be selfish in the dating game. That's all I hear when they say, I'm dating on my own terms.
So, I'm just like, y'all feel like y'all relationship people?
Yeah.
Me too.
It's like, I'm like you. I grew up with brothers. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, I know how this is going down. And like I'm going to move accordingly.
You beat him to the punch.
Yeah, I'm just going to move accordingly. And also, like, I almost got married very young. Mm-hmm. And so I think after that, it made me be like, okay, I felt like I hadn't really experienced anything. I didn't really know myself. I didn't really know what I liked, what I didn't like. I just feel like I hadn't really experienced life. So I think at that point, then I was like, okay, I'm about to, like I said, just date on my terms. And like, however I want to move, whatever I want to do, I'm going to do it. And if it's no longer serving me, I'm going to move on.
I mean, that's what it was for me.
And see, and there it goes again, right? I'm a date on my terms. And if it's not serving me, I'm going to move on. Which is very contradictory to what Tiana Taylor was talking about in the previous segment.
I think another thing that a lot of people miss, and I think it should work both ways, is that we should always be afraid of like losing one another. Mm-hmm. And I think that's further to my point of being a cup of tea. Whereas like if you sip too fast, you're doing too much, you mishandling that cup of tea, you will get burned.
And you see this statement from Tiana Taylor is in direct contradiction to what Lori Harvey is talking about, right? Because Lori Harvey is saying, look, I'm dating on my terms, and if it's no longer serving me, I'm out of here. But then you hear Tiana Taylor, the married woman, and she talks about there being a healthy fear of losing each other, right? So if you don't want to lose someone, you're going to fight a little bit harder, and you're going to try to work things out to keep that person there. You're going to find ways to have a middle ground and compromise. When listen to Lori Harvey, there's no talk about compromising. It's really like, look, either you gonna get down or lay down, and that's not how relationships work. And it's this whole idea of, hey, look, if there's some issues, then I'm gonna just move on to the next guy, because there's always a better man around the corner, or so she thinks, versus finding someone who has good morals, good values, and sticking it out with them. And I understand, like, she's trying to find herself, she's trying to learn how to do different things, and she wants to experience life. But you can do that with a partner. You can experience life with a husband or a boyfriend or a fiance. You don't have to be single to experience life. And I feel like that's where a lot of people got it mixed up. It's like, oh, well, I haven't really experienced life yet. But there's some people experience life right now with their loved ones. There's some people who don't even want to have those kind of experiences without their loved ones. They want to go on these journeys together. They want to grow together. People think like, oh, well, I haven't reached that point yet, or I don't really. You're always going to be ever evolving, ever changing. And so if you find someone that you love spending time with, they have similar values and morals, then you can make it work with that person. This idea that you have to date around and be with a bunch of different people to kind of like figure things out. No. Hopping from one relationship to another relationship doesn't equate to growth. Being in a long relationship, learning your partner, learning their likes and dislikes, learning how they want to be loved, that's growth. Because every time you get into a new relationship, now you got to start all over by learning this person's, likes and dislikes and how they want to be loved. So it's, to me, I kind of, see what she's saying, but you're not going to really build anything by just, dating one guy to the next guy. And, people think that this is how dating is supposed to be. But as you can see, she's single. Tiana Taylor isn't hopping from one dude to another because, you know what? She's with her husband, and she's happy with her husband, and they're in a long-lasting relationship. And the only way you learn how to do that is by being in a long-lasting relationship. You don't learn how to be in a long-lasting relationship by hopping from one dude to another, and then magically you're going to land on the guy who has everything right. It doesn't work that way. All right, that's all I got for this one. Let me know what you thought of the video. What points did you agree with? What points did you disagree with? Leave your comments below and let me know what you thought. And if you got anything out of this video, hit that like button. This is Agree to Disagree. I'm out.